Why, you guys, the view just went insane. Check this out.
You guys have seen me crack a lot of jokes about The View, but this time The View weighs in on truly defending and covering for Hamas in a very subtle way. This is part of the debate that's going on in America over a war overseas. I have a lot of care because Israel is a great ally. I don't say this as necessarily as a Zionist. I don't know if there's a supernatural tie to Israel outside of what was in the Old Testament, but I can clearly see who the good guys and the bad guys are in this. Israel's the good guys, and I stand behind them. I don't think they're doing enough, or I support them to do what needs to be done against Hamas, because Hamas did the mistake of taking the first shot, and what they did on October 7th, I can't even describe here on YouTube. So let's watch The View and watch them obfuscate good people, decent, normal American people covering up for evil, which makes them helpful to evil.
And particularly on college campuses across America, they've been staging protests over the Israel-Hamas war, with demands ranging from an immediate ceasefire to calls for colleges to divest any interest in Israeli-affiliated businesses. There have also been really ugly instances of hate speech that have sparked a debate over the line between free speech and hate speech.
And just to be clear, all of those accusations of hate speech have come against the pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, anti-Jew side. And it always comes from that side. Now, Whoopi Goldberg is going to blame the media, saying that they're only showing you one side. But there's only one side to show, because it is. The Palestinians have gone nuts. They've shut down the Brooklyn Bridge. They've gone and shut down public spaces. They've blocked traffic. They've intimidated Jews to a point that Jews don't feel comfortable going to college.
No one supports hate speech, and students fearing for their safety.
No, she's wrong that no one supports it. Half of the Democrat Party, this is about the divide in the Democrat Party primarily. They're far left, Ilhan Omar, AOC, Rashida Tlaib, they're for the hate speech and they're covering for it. This is very dangerous to do. This is not covered by free speech, this kind of intimidation.
But do they have the right to peacefully protest about ending violence? Isn't this part of being an American, and also standing up when you see something that's wrong? And I know there are lots of actors in the middle of this, but let's talk about these students.
Well, she's using this bland talk as if they fit within that general definition of normal protest, something that, by the way, everyone supports normal protest. It's not normal is the problem.
That is the fundamental question. There's a right to free speech and a right to assembly, but Jews also have a right to feel safe on college campuses. I talked to students who I taught, who actually withdrew from her semester at her school mid-semester because she felt unsafe for what she was seeing on her college campus.
And that alone should tell you what is really going on. Lisa Farrah Griffin is actually the one nailing all these other View hosts for what they're doing, which is obfuscating the truth. Jewish students do not feel safe on these campuses. So we all support free speech. That's not what's happening.
Here's what I will say is, as a Lebanese American, I'm disgusted seeing Hezbollah flags, a terrorist organization, fly on American college campuses. And I understand that these young people are coming out protesting for peace, protesting for a ceasefire. But I also want to state there was a ceasefire before October 7th. Israel has proposed 2 since there. Hamas has rejected them. And Hamas's own charter in Article 13 states that it rejects any peaceful solutions, any negotiated pieces.
Thank you for the truth, Lisa Farrah Griffin. This is targeted against an ethnicity. The Hamas flag is no different than flying a swastika flag. I don't think these people would be defending it if that was the case. If you ever read Hamas's charter, they're for the complete annihilation of the Jews from their own land.
Campus. I spoke to the brother of Alex Edelman, who we had on the show, the comedian, AJ Edelman. He had his yarmulke ripped off on campus. He had somebody grab his neck simply for existing as a Jew. People need to call this out. Jews are living in fear of white nationalists on one side and far leftists who are frankly siding with terrorists in some cases on the other side.
And she brought up the white nationalists as if there's some kind of equivalence going on. I don't know if I've ever seen a white nationalist. There's maybe 300 of them down in Charlotte that were marching with torches, or the only ones I ever saw. I've never seen them mainstream take over multiple campuses and downtown New York. This is silly to equate the two. It is wrong to make a moral equivalence where there is no equivalence. It's part of how evil exists, is you come back and you start making general statements. Oh, they're both about the same. They're not even close.
I fled dictatorship. I fled civil war in Nicaragua. And one of the things that distinguishes us from many other countries is that in this country, we have the right to protest peacefully. We have the right to assemble peacefully. We have the right to freedom of speech. Again, the line to me is when it puts other people's safety and welfare at risk. That is a difference.
Yeah, what she said about peacefully. Peacefully is the key. They all know that's been breached here. This is not a peaceful protest at all. This needs to be shut down.
This all could end tomorrow, could end today if Hamas released the hostages.
And so what she said about the hostages is true. That makes Hamas is the bad guy in this. They're holding Israel hostages. They broke the ceasefire and went and slaughtered innocent people. They only target civilians, by the way. They do not target the army. They target civilians, and they mix civilians among their own army, so that when you go after their army, you'll necessarily up your civilian count, and they can use that kind of drama to work up the view and get them to defend Hamas. That's the trick.
There is not one group that anybody is protesting over that will be better off under Donald Trump. So be very careful that you don't cut off your nose to spite your face by not showing up to vote in November. Because the first thing that Donald Trump did when he became president was issue a Muslim ban.
Well, I'm not going to talk about the Muslim ban for now, because who cares, But the truth is that this stuff didn't happen under Trump. Israel felt much more safe under Trump. He recognized them as our allies, and this kind of terror is invited by weak leadership. And that's Biden. That's their guy. More of this will happen. We will explode into unrest if Biden wins again. That's why, just for the sake of even basic civility in America, to hold the fabric of our country together, we have to vote for Trump. And these ladies, they act like this didn't happen under Biden.
And if you think not showing up to vote is not going to help Donald Trump get elected, and Donald Trump will give Palestine any justice, I want what you're smoking.
Yeah, I don't see the tie there where she goes like, Trump's going to help bring justice to Palestine. Remember, under the Iran hostage crisis, Jimmy Carter, his weakness, invited the taking of those hostages. As soon as Ronald Reagan won, Iran knew, time to release the hostages because an adult is in charge. I believe the same thing will happen under Trump. You watch, the hostages will be released if they're still alive.
I think it's,
think is a generous word to use with Sonny.
I think we need to shift the framing of these college protests.
Oh, and she puts her hand on her chin. I think, oh no, we're doing chin scratching now with Sonny Hostin. This should be good.
Fact, in my view. I think college campuses have been the place for anti-war protests for as far as I can remember. And so I think these are anti-war protests, and I think it's very distressing that we are framing these as pro-Palestinian protests or pro-Israeli protests. These are anti-war protests.
No, they're not. That's obfuscation once again. She's trying to turn them into peaceniks. From the, mountains to the sea or river to the sea, they want to be free of Israel. These are genocidal statements. This is not anti-war. They actually want a war. They want Israel destroyed. So she's trying to provide cover where there should be no cover. She should be embarrassed. Sonny should be embarrassed that she's carrying Hamas's water. And yes, the Palestinians that were on the streets in Palestine while Hamas was doing their thing, they were out cheering. Not one condemnation. They cheered.
What we also don't talk enough about is the fact that 35,000, mainly women and children, that are Palestinians have been murdered.
Not murdered. They're collateral, what's called collateral damage. You got to look up just war theory, even the Geneva Conventions. Israel never targets civilians. They target military. Now, it's not Israel's fault that Hamas puts their military in the basement of a hospital. So that is why they have a higher civilian casualty count. By the way, Israel's civilian casualty count still is lower than our casualty count when we went in and attacked Iraq back in the early 2000s. And we were never brought up for war crimes.
What we also don't talk about, I think, enough is that for some reason, the discussion of against Israel's policies, which the UN has called war crimes, which the International Criminal Court is investigating as war crimes, what we don't say is these are people, these are civilians, and we must protect them.
Once again, the civilians are there by design. Whose fault is it if a civilian gets hit in Palestine? It's Palestine's fault. They did this. This is part of their whole, they can't take on Israel and beat them man to man. They can't beat their military. So this is what they do. And what gets rewarded, if this works and Israel has to back down, it will get repeated. It will encourage more civilian casualties. More of the innocent will go.
Part of our problem is the media takes what is the best clickbait. So you see the same posters or you see the same people, but you don't see the folks who are doing peaceful stuff and saying, here's what we want to do.
Yeah, because there's so few peaceful ones. They're showing you all, and believe me, if they could find a violent Israeli group, they'd show it on these campuses. They can't find it, and that's why. So she's claiming it's selective editing. It also just doesn't exist. The peaceful protests that Whoopi's talking about, she's making them up whole cloth.
I would caution the media to be very careful about what they're doing and how they're handling this, because what they seem to be doing is pushing a narrative that people are pushing against, which students are pushing against, which I'm thrilled to see, because I like when students get mad and say, we want a change made.
Oh, so Whoopi is supporting the Get Mad pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian side, and I condemn it. And so this is their party split. This is part of why Biden is having a problem with Dearborn, Michigan, which is full of Muslims that are pushing him, saying that he's being too hard on them and too soft on Israel. So he's stuck because he's weak. He has no clear leadership. And we need Trump to come in and be a better statesman with better minds to straighten out Palestine, get them to release the hostages, because this is their fault on them. And how dare the View protect them and cover for them. I'm Doug.
Wow, guys, week after week after week, they find a way to make themselves a laughing stock. If I didn't have the View, honestly, I don't know what I would do. It's free. It's free entertainment. You know what I mean? Because they go on there and they just, you know, they're getting paid to push whatever agenda they want. So, you know, they're like a new person every week. They're like a chameleon. Every week, it's like a new show. Just something they're trying to push, and it's funny to watch, and I love watching when they bring guests on. But today we didn't have a guest. They wanted to talk about something they didn't know about. But Alyssa Fair Griffin did exactly what Doug said. She makes sure the truth gets out there, and that's the reason why she's not on the show most of the time, because she checks them, and she checks them so calmly to where they could, you know, kind of stop talking about it. And guys, I don't like how that co-host tried to blame this on Trump. This didn't happen when Trump was in office, so make Biden deal with it. Let me know what you guys think about this quick video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new and it's out. Let me know what you guys think about the quick video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe if you're new. And as always, let me know what to react to. We're out.